Alright, Shalom, all honor and praises be unto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, GreatMillStone, and Shalom to the sincere Akim out there teaching out there on the highways and byways of truth and sincerity. It's the brother Shakar from the GMS London camp. And what I want to do is speak on Cornelius, man. And in fact, Cornelius was a part of the 12 tribes of Israel. Cornelius being an Israelite, man, you know, in spirit, man, prayed to come back into the fold, man. And Peter, was sent unto him to show him the gospel of salvation, man. And the simple and plain fact is this: Cornelius and his house received the word in which he and his household may be saved, man. Now, the scriptures clearly does say that that the words of the Lord is constant, man. From the Old Testament into the New, man. The message of salvation unto Israel has been constant within the scriptures, man. So by that alone, by Cornelius being, a heathen, which is what people are trying to say, would be a direct contradiction according to the scriptures. And does not the scripture say that the Lord is not the author of confusion? So the first scripture, I'm gonna get is this. It says, 2 Ezra 8 and 22. It says, and this is pertaining to the Most High, whose service is conversant in wind and fire, whose word is true. So the word of the word of the Most High is true, man. Scripture says there is no lie of the truth. In I believe in 1 John, whose word is true, whose and sayings constant, whose commandment is strong and ordinance fearful through the Spirit. Let's go into the word constant here, man. And let's see what it means. It says constant, occurring continuously over a period of time, man. And it's a continuous thing in the scriptures, man, of Israel being saved. Luke 1 and 68 clearly gives you an understanding of what is salvation unto Israel, man. Us being saved from the hand of our enemies and being redeemed from the curse of the law, man. And also applying to obviously being saved from our enemies during this time period, which is going to come now. So without further ado, let's start with Acts 10. And what I'm also going to do, if it be of the Lord's will, is speak on a historical article that I have here by a scholar, which speaks of Jews, Israelite in the Roman army, man. So it even says here, this is Acts 10 and 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the Italian band. Now, someone reads that scripture and says, Cornelius is an Edomite. Cornelius was Italian, so it means he was an Edomite. He was of the Italian band. He was a centurion. And he was of the Italian band. Now, what people need to understand is that there's historical points, right, which prove that you had Israelites in the Roman army, man. You know, and furthermore, the 12 tribes of Israel were scattered among all people upon the earth. But what we're going to do now, before we get the historical point, is the scriptures which pertain to Israel being in the land of Italy, man. This is Acts 18:2. Right? This is Acts 18:2. And found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all the Jews to depart from Rome. Rome is in Italy, man. So these men, Aquila and Priscilla, his wife, right, were Jews who Claudius had commanded to depart from Rome, man. So that proves you had Israelites, according to the scriptures, in Italy, man. So why does it sound as an impossible thing for Israelites to be in Italy? And Jake, who discontinued from the heritage, coming into the faith, man. Because just how you had Jake, who knew the heritage in Israel and in Italy, you also had Jake, who completely lost the heritage, also in Italy, but also came to their faith. So Aquila here would be what's called in the scriptures as a of this circumcision, which means Jake, who grew up knowing they were part of the 12 tribes of Israel, knowing the heritage, you know, and the uncircumcision in the scriptures, you know, would be, you know, Jake, who literally discontinued from knowing who they actually were, man, you know. But you had some of the uncircumcision who came back to the heritage and feared the Lord. Cornelius being a prime example of that, right? So let's get another scripture which speaks of Israel, people who are part of the 12 tribes of Israel in Italy. This is Hebrews 13 and 24. It says, so salute all them that have rule over you, and all the saints. Who are the saints? The saints are Israelites, man, as it says in Psalms 148. Which, if you want, I'm gonna read it here. This is Psalms 148, right? It says Psalms 148 and 14. He also exalteth the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord Yahweh. So the saints are the Israelites, man. So it says, salute them. So this is back in Hebrews 13 and 25. Salute all them that have the rule over you, and all the saints, they of Italy, salute you. So you had saints in Italy, man. Here it says they of Italy, the Israelites living in Italy. So you had Israel living in Italy, man. You had some who knew who they were, knew their heritage, and some that didn't, man. In fact, if you go into that same point in Hebrews, in the the footnote, man. It says, written to the Hebrews from Italy by Timothy. It says here, I'm not sure if you can see under the camera, right? It says, written to the Hebrews from Italy by Timothy, man. So that further proves you had Jake in Italy, man. So now what am I going to do right now is go into this document here, which is called, I'm going to duplicate the tab to basically get the title. It says Sons of Israel in Caesar's service. It says Jewish soldiers in the Roman military, man. So even by the title alone, we know, right? You had so-called no, it's not so-called. You had Israelites in the Roman military, man. You know, and it says Sons of Israel in Caesar's service, Jewish soldiers in the Roman military, right? By Andrew Schoenfeld, right? So this was published in 2006, right? Now I'm gonna read the first point, right, and then go into the point I want to speak on it. And it says over here, right? It says the participation of Roman Jewish soldiers in the armies of Imperial Rome often goes unrecognized. This is mainly a result of a lack of recognition on the part of scholars who wish to use rabbinic sources as the benchmark of Jewish practice in the Imperial Age. It is also, here's a key point, it is also difficult to identify Jewish soldiers, many of whom had Greek and Latin names. So this article says, in history, it is hard to identify Israelites in Imperial Rome. The reason being because you had a good portion which had Greek and Latin names, Cornelius being one of them. So that's why some of you guys, what, Cornelius, what, but that's not a Hebrew name. No, he was just a Jake, a part of the Italian, band, doing his job, but then he had conviction in him, man. Because the scripture says he was praying to the Most High, he was giving his alms, and ultimately, man, he received the gospel of salvation and was accepted into the fold, man. The Lord said he's not a respecter of persons. He is Lord of all. Applies of who? He's Lord of all Israel, man. And in every nation where Israel was scattered to the Israelites, he that feareth the Lord is accepted with him in righteousness, man. Because why? He is an Israelite and he's seeking the Lord, and by receiving those words he received repentance unto life, man. Cornelius was not a fucking he wasn't a heathen, man. It says it is also difficult to identify Jewish soldiers, many of whom had Greek and Latin names, unless they are specifically identified as Jews or found in content such as dedicatory inscriptions from a synagogue. Nonetheless, by using a variety of sources from the period, it is possible which is factual, to appreciate the depth and breadth of Jewish service in Roman legions, man. Cornelius, a centurion of the Italian band, a high-ranking officer a part of the Roman army, right? It says from the time of Caesar down to the 5th century, man. So throughout just the Roman captivity, it was a well-known thing. You had Jake, a part of it, man. It says there were Jews who served as simple foot soldiers, influential generals like Tiberius, Julius, Alexander, which he was a coon, you know, and Jewish military units such as the Regi Amenese Day, right? It says, regardless of their relationship to Orthodox Jewish communities of the time, the service of Roman Jews in the imperial armed forces must be recognized. And that's what I'm doing here with the Spirit, with Cornelius, man. You know, now let's skip to a source in the same article. It says, here, many diasporan Jews were fully enmeshed in Roman culture. If you go into the word diaspora, right, it says the dispersion of Jews beyond Israel. One dispersed place is where? Italy. So that's why in John 7:35 it says, whither will he go that we should not find him? Will he go to the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? So what does that mean? They were inquiring if the Lord was going to go to the dispersed Jakes among the Gentiles and teach the dispersed Jakes among the Gentiles, which were identifying themselves as Gentiles because they just lost their heritage, man. It says Jews living outside of Israel. No, the dispersion or spread of any people from their original homeland, and that also played a part in them living where? In Italy. It says many diasporan Jews were fully enmeshed in Roman culture, used Greek or Latin names, Cornelius, yeah, and it says, and were active in civic administrations of numerous cities around the Mediterranean. So it was a known fact. You had Jake, those who were scattered, who lost their heritage, right? And even Jews just, you know, in them lands. But in here it's saying you had diasporan Jews, man, right? And it says in the civic administration of numerous cities around the Mediterranean. It says in this respect they approximate modern Reformed Jews, and it is not surprising that some men of Jewish faith would look to establish careers in the Roman military. It's the same thing now. Jake can't find a job. He's like, oh shit, well, I'm gonna join the military, man. You know, it says unfortunately this high level of integration puts the scholar at a certain disadvantage when attempting to identify Roman Jewish soldiers in historical record, unless their religion is specifically identified. Jews with Greek or Latin names escape our notice, and it is probable that Roman Jewish soldiers will be lost in posterity than it says that it is possible that more Roman Jewish soldiers will be lost to posterity than can ever be identified. And it says, based on evaluation, right, of what archaeological and historical material is available, most Jewish soldiers seem to have originated from 3 distinct regions of the empire. So it's saying that there were 3 distinct places in the Roman Empire where they got their Israelite soldiers from. It says in the latter imperial period, the Jewish community of Italy provided many recruits. Now I could have skipped straight to the point, but I wanted to read it to give brothers a background. It says in later imperial period, the Jewish community of Italy provided many recruits. So the Jewish community, so it was known in history that there was a big Jewish community in Italy, and that Jewish community in Italy provided many recruits. So to say Cornelius is a heathen because you're the Italian man, to say that, you're just being simple, man. The heathens can't be saved, man. In the latter imperial period, the Jewish community of Italy provided many recruits, but the Hellenic Jewish populations of Syria and Asia Minor and the Jews of Egypt probably contributed the most to the Roman Jewish military effort. As mentioned above, the Egyptian Jewish community already had a military tradition before the advent of Imperial Rome. Roman Jewish soldiers who are mentioned in inscriptions and artifacts from the 1st and 2nd centuries are almost entirely of Egyptian or Syrian extraction. An inscription from Jaffa mentioned an Egyptian Jew named Thanum the centurion. So it actually speaks of an Israelite in Egypt who was a Roman centurion, man. Cornelius was a centurion of the Italian band. He was just a Jake who was in Italy from the Italian band, and during that time he was in Caesarea, man. So what I'm going to do for the Spirit is split into parts. You know, so this is going to be part 1. What I'm also going to do here is read what's that called? What I'm also going to do here is focus on Caesarea, because it also speaks of that place too, right? So I've proven already that scholars know. I've proven in the scriptures that you had Jews in Italy and a part of the Roman army, and I've also proven that through the scriptures and with historical notes. So now what we're going to do right now is speak on Caesarea, man. You know. Okay, we're going to speak on Caesarea. Okay, so it says, let me read it, right? It says, by the time of Caesar, Jews could already reflect on an illustrious 300-year history of armed service in Persia and the Hellenistic East. So it was known that in other empires you had Jake a part of the armies, man. Right? Not to mention the military exploits of the Hasmonean dynasty in the Jewish state proper. Throughout the Ptolemaic period, Jews served in every capacity in the Egyptian army. There were many military colonies at Elephantine, border guards at Pelusium, and reservists in Epigon. Queen Cleopatra's third top military commanders were both Jews, Chelcias and Ananias, the sons of the legendary high priest Ananias, which, if you go into the scriptures in First Maccabees, I believe, you get more information on him. And it says this military tradition continued in the early imperial period, which is talking about the time of Rome, which I believe it started from 27 BC. If you go into the Roman imperial period, it says the imperial period is by convention taken to last from 27 BC to AD 284. So let's go back to the article, and it says, right, this military tradition continued into the early imperial period. Josephus makes specific mention of Jewish military colonists instrumental in pacifying the region of Trachonitis. To this effect, 500 Jewish horsemen from Mesopotamia were settled at Batanea under the leadership of a captain named Zamaris. Now this is very key. Let's go into Batanea and what that is, and the fact that it says that you had Jewish, which there ain't no such thing as Jewish. You had Israelites, soldiers stationed in that town. Now it says, this is from Wikipedia, right? Batanea is the Hellenized Latin form of Bashan. It says was an area of the biblical Holy Land, right? But if you skip here, it says in the 1st century BCE, the land was acquired by Herod the Great. On his death in 4 BCE, passed to his son Philip as part of his inheritance. In some sources, Philip is referred to as the tetrarch of Batanea, with the capital at Caesarea Philippi. Does that ring a bell? Though his lands were more extensive than this. So going back to the point, if we read back in Acts 10, which I'm really on verse 1 now, but I'm just going to the historical perspective of this verse, and then in part 2 I'm gonna get into the breakdown, if the Lord will, on Cornelius, man. This is Acts 10:1. There was a certain man in Caesarea, already proven that you had Israelites, a part of the Roman army station in that land. I was just bringing out that information, but Cornelius himself was of the Italian band, and I've proven already that the main extraction, right, of Roman Jews in the actual army came from what? The Jewish community in Italy. It says there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, right? So just because he was of the Italian band, that don't mean Cornelius is Edomite. It don't mean that, man, because it says here, it says here clearly, it clearly states, man, that you had a good portion of Jakes, man. You know, it says here, in the latter imperial period, the Jewish community of Italy provided many recruits. So with that, I'm gonna end part 1 with just this quick bit here. So I proven that you had Israelite soldiers who were stationed in Caesarea, which that whole area of Batanea, as you can see here, that whole area itself, the capital of that place was where? Caesarea Philippi. So you had men, a part of the Roman military who were part of the 12 tribes of Israel, who were scattered, and in and around this place, a part of the army, man, you know, and a good portion of them didn't know the heritage, man, you know. And it says these settlers and their descendants continued in their role as a garrison into the 2nd century and supported forces during the Jewish revolt, man. So it's mad. Like when 70 AD took place, you had some of them men helping them fight against Jake, man. You know, it shows how people are going off, man. It says careful examinations of sources from the Julio-Claudian period reveals a smattering of Jewish soldiers laboring in the imperial army, which is the imperial army of Rome. In the year 19, Emperor Tiberius forcibly conscripted 4,000 Roman Jews for military service in the island of Sardinia, which I believe Sardinia is in Italy, man. It says, see, Sardinia is a large Italian island, man. So, hey, man, you have Jake scattered there from the day, man. It says, Sardinia, but there is also evidence of Jews in a voluntary capacity. Matthias, a Syrian Jew, served in the Legio Adrix, and and actually skip down. It says, no, I'm gonna keep reading. On the Nero and received citizenship in 68. prior to the implementation of the constitutional autonomia in 2011, military service was one of the few ways that Jews could achieve Roman citizenship. This was granted after 26 years of service, man. So this is going to be the end of part 1. I'm sorry, because this actually I didn't expect going to just this part 1 would have been this long, you know, but it's a spirit, because I had no intention of splitting this into parts, but the spirit, you know, just said, you know, I should split in parts, man, because Jay's gone into a short attention span. So part 1 will just be on Jews in the Roman army, man. Acts 18, Hebrews 13, you know, and Romans 1 and 15 also speaks about saints in Rome, man. You know, so this is part 1, and this will be the historical perspective of Jews in the Roman army. I'll post this to this source in the description box.